Russian general staff has been blown up. The commander of the Black Sea Fleet has been killed. Special operations in USU are ongoing.
General Valery Gerasimov, who serves as the chief of the general staff of the Russian armed forces, was indeed present at the location.
That's all.
Okay,
In Wisu, Depot's headquarters are being destroyed and a series of explosions are shaking Crimea, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Boom, bada boom, a truly powerful and devastating detonation has occurred. The very headquarters where numerous Russian FSB officers were based has been completely and utterly blown up, and it appears that everyone within has been entirely eliminated.
Are burning, and they are burning very brightly and intensely.
Oil refineries, destroyed railway junctions, and unique satellite equipment in Wisu are striking the Black Sea Fleet, destroying boats. There is also information that the main intelligence directorate may have eliminated the vice admiral of the Black Sea Fleet.
well, actually,
Friends, it's September 3rd and a series of explosions is shaking Russia. Crimea, Moscow, St. Petersburg are under attack. The armed forces of Ukraine struck the Black Sea Fleet. A boat has been destroyed. We struck the base of the Russian FSB service.
Under
The attack, the headquarters and the most important FSB officers have been eliminated. Oil refineries are burning, railway hubs and unique satellite equipment have been destroyed, and at this moment Putin has fled to Beijing for the largest military parade in China's history, where together with Xi Jinping and Kim Jong they are demonstrating nuclear power. The axis of dictatorships is baring its teeth. Let's discuss all this with Varanoli, the well-known journalist Dmitry Kedon. Dmitry Rich, welcome.
I'll turn the calendar page. It's September 3rd again. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. To everyone watching us, because people will be watching at different times, right? And many will watch it a second and even a third time. So, hello there, my dear friends, and a warm hello to you, Dasha. To your Fluguru.
Yes, dear viewers, please like this video, our tandem. Dmitry and I always cover the top 3 current news stories. Everyone is writing that Gherkin is already dead, and next will be Gerasimov. We'll strike at headquarters, at the FSB, at the Black Sea Fleet. Dmitry Rich, as September begins, what are the causes for the rashes?
Yes, we clearly see how Russia is relentlessly hitting Ukraine with drones and missiles, not only during the dark hours of the night, but now also throughout the day.
Yes.
That is, this never happened before. Drones flying over Ukraine during the day, and several times a day at that. And now that's exactly what's happening. Against the backdrop of all these statements from Gerasimov, Shmirasimov, and other such unsavory figures, it looks like a demonstration that we have no intention of ending the war. We will keep fighting until we achieve our goals. And neither Trump nor Europe can truly tell us what we should do. We'll certainly do things entirely our own way. Just take a moment to look at precisely how incredibly well we're getting along here in Beijing, observing how we appear together, standing united with Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un. In a general sense, you really have to interpret the language of symbols a little bit, right? The language of symbols is actually quite simple and straightforward. On the momentous way to the Grand Parade, the leading trio was unequivocally Xi Jinping, with Vladimir Putin positioned firmly on his right side and Kim Jong-un conspicuously on his left side. This clearly and demonstrably shows that the nations of China, Russia, and North Korea are actively challenging the long-established global world order, specifically challenging the powerful United States of America and the collective European Union. And I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that there will be a very clear, decisive, and unambiguous response to these significant challenges. There simply cannot be any other conceivable way forward. So let's wait a little. After all, we haven't waited that long.
Smitrik, actually, you are an optimist in this discussion, while many international experts are more pessimistic about this situation. First of all, everyone really saw how China demonstrated its full power. Let's focus on that. The nuclear triad, strategic forces based on land, sea, and air, intercontinental missiles with a strike range that covers the entire planet, submarine-launched missiles, a new version of land-based missiles, laser weapons, and underwater drones. Everyone wrote that this is an axis of dictatorships showing complete support for each other because during the bilateral meeting with Putin, Kim Jong-un said, "We will help you in any way you need." While at that very moment, Trump is backing down. No sanctions. Those days are over. That was back in early September when he was supposed to impose sanctions. But once again, he retreats into the shadows. Moreover, Trump made a statement that he is probably not interested in the Nobel Peace Prize, which means he does not plan to put strong pressure on Russia to end the war.
So, Dasha, let me tell you, as someone who knows a thing or two about life, life in its essence is as simple as a cucumber, maybe even simpler. It's essentially a comprehensive set of established behavioral rules, a diverse collection of distinct human types, and truly just a broad set of various situations. So based on what I understand, and I only understand a little, as I warned you, Trump simply won't be able not to respond to Putin's rudeness. He just won't be able to. Even if, as they say, he's a KGB agent, well, let's suppose for a moment, which is truly terrible, right? Let's just suppose, though I absolutely don't believe it, it's utterly impossible for the following very clear reasons. I mean, come on, are Americans completely crazy idiots or something to allow a known KGB agent to become president not just once, but twice? Either they genuinely don't understand this significant fact, or what? Or they're simply not mature enough as a functioning democracy, or they don't possess the necessary safeguards to prevent a KGB agent from ending up in the highest presidential seat twice. But that's truly impossible, simply and utterly impossible. I absolutely don't believe it. It's complete and utter nonsense. So let's imagine that Trump could have been recruited by the Soviet Union's Committee for State Security, the KGB, the Committee for State Security. Let's imagine that, and that Putin controls him, and that Putin has some kind of devastating compromat on Trump. Let's imagine that too, and let's imagine that Trump is afraid to hurt Putin. Let's imagine that as well. Behind Donald Trump stands a truly immense and powerful country, indeed the most powerful and incredibly efficient nation. Behind Trump also stands the Republican Party, through which he was successfully elected president for an unprecedented second time. And the Republican Party, that's the enduring tradition of Ronald Reagan, that's the unwavering hawks. Behind Trump stands the military-industrial complex. I would like to see a US president who completely ignores the opinions and perspectives of the American military-industrial complex. Are we really saying that Trump will just quietly swallow everything from Putin and that no one from those backing him will object? That's out of the question. Absolutely out of the question. What are the Republicans thinking? First of all, let's be clear. Trump is guided by his people and by the position of the Republican Party. He can't help but be guided by them, and it's no coincidence that sociological services are so strong, so powerful, so well developed in the United States. They conduct polls and sociological research on every little thing. Someone sneezes and they're already asking, what do you think about that? So, regarding Russia, the situation is extremely, indeed remarkably simple. The vast majority of ordinary, everyday Americans are unequivocally against Putin and Russia. The overwhelming, truly significant majority of ordinary, hard-working Americans, the overwhelming, undeniable majority of Republicans, are firmly against Putin and Russia. There are concrete, verifiable numbers that demonstrate this fact. If Trump doesn't take these crucial numbers into account, to begin with, he'll undoubtedly lose the midterm elections in Congress next year. And next year is already very soon. Time goes by so incredibly quickly. It truly flies. It rolls on relentlessly. In short, he'll certainly lose the midterms. And if he loses them, he could potentially be impeached and will face major, significant problems overall. Can the Republicans who staunchly back Trump allow him to lose the midterms? Can they, having firm control of the region today, let it simply slip away from their grasp? After all, they're constantly thinking about the next term, the upcoming political cycle. I repeat, time flies incredibly fast. Trump has much less than 4 years left in his current term, but the Republicans desperately want the next president to be a Republican again to maintain their political power. That's precisely why Trump won't be able to ignore Putin's provocative actions, and Putin's actions are an outright blatant démarche, an open, undeniable mockery of Trump and the United States. He's mocking them, let's call things by their true names. He's simply ridiculing him, and the whole entire world clearly sees it, and this absolutely doesn't add to Trump's authority or standing. That's why I firmly believe we'll see very tough, decisive actions towards Russia, very tough indeed. Especially since yesterday, Trump subtly hinted at something significant, that he learned something crucial and will share it with us in the coming days very soon. He found out something important about Russia, but it's incredibly interesting what exactly he learned. I think my personal opinion is that he's hinting at some deep concerning connections between Russia and North Korea in the sensitive field of nuclear weapons development and proliferation. Well, we'll just have to wait and see how this unfolds.
Dmitrievich Trump directly named Russia, China, and North Korea as conspirators against the United States, and the US Treasury is discussing new sanctions against Russia. What was really telling was that Treasury Secretary Bessed made a statement saying that Putin is blasphemously carrying out terrorist strikes after Alaska and that this is unacceptable, so they are considering sanctions. Dmitrievich, with the greatest respect for you, I completely disagree with what you're saying. I am convinced that Trump will do nothing, and it doesn't matter whether he's an agent or not. He simply won't do anything for certain reasons. He won't do anything. Let's set some specific deadlines. So far, these are just words. Bessed said some words, and Trump says some empty words every day, which really aren't even worth reacting to. What do you think? Will there be any action? And if so, when? There is a certain deadline that we can set for Trump, after which we'll know for sure that he's incapable of anything. But for example, as far as I'm concerned, the deadline for Trump has already passed, while for you it still remains. Let's discuss these deadlines. When sanctions will be imposed, under what circumstances this will happen, and what will happen if nothing is done.
I like that you're arguing with me. That's very good, because truth is born in argument. As for the deadlines, my dear Dasha, when we are analyzing the complex and often unpredictable behavior of Donald Trump, I want to be completely and utterly frank with you and state unequivocally that there simply cannot be any rigid or fixed deadlines for him by definition. He is by his very nature a truly spontaneous individual, someone who consistently acts on pure impulse, often exhibiting an extravagant and remarkably original approach to situations. So, what kind of strict deadlines could possibly apply to such a unique personality? But at the same time, you must observe, he did indeed meticulously stick to the crucial deadline regarding the significant issue of Iran, striking with considerable force and ultimately meeting that very important deadline with precision and determination. I believe, and I'll repeat myself, I believe it seems to me that he won't be able to look like an idiot compared to Putin. That's simply impossible by definition. This is America.
He's been involved for a long time, ever since his second term. All of this is already happening. You're talking about the future, but it's already underway. If something looks like a pig, walks like a pig, and oinks like a pig, then it's a pig. Of course, you can be under the illusion that it's a pink pony, but it's a pig. We are watching a pig. Who
did you call a pig?
We all understood here who I called a pig. So we've been trying to turn this pig into a pink pony for half a year or a bit longer, but it's not working. We've tried this way and that, but it still remains a pig. It's not like we made this up. We're trying to bleach it with bleach, but nothing gets whiter, Dmitry Ilyich.
What if it's bleach from some leading, well-known and highly reputable brand? It still won't work.
That was an allegory, in this case, a literary allegory. So the question is this: we keep trying week after week on air to find something positive in an intelligent way, but we just can't. You see? Once again, they're slipping us something new, and once again, we're trying to find something positive. Dmitry Ilyich, as always. Dasha?
Look, I'm not a particular fan of Donald Trump. I'm certainly not a citizen of the United States of America, so I'm definitely not a Trump voter. But I must repeat, I do know a little bit about life, just a small bit, here and there, maybe even a little more than that. Everything I have come to know about life truly tells me that things absolutely cannot go on like this, not for much longer. Trump gave him a chance. I understand. Listen, Dasha, I've conducted hundreds of negotiations, from ordinary street meetings in the 90s to respectable negotiations in beautiful offices. Negotiations are always about this. When you speak from a position of strength, you are by definition magnanimous, and you give the other person the opportunity to do something admirable. You give him that, you allow him, you give him the opportunity. You tell him, look, there are options, you start with the good ones. Trump operates within this paradigm. He tells Putin, look, there are plenty of good things besides war. Only fools fight wars in the 21st century, especially as fiercely as you do. I'm speaking figuratively. Of course, he doesn't use those exact words. There are a lot of interesting proposals. For example, you can make a lot of money, huge amounts of money. Look, see how I made 5 billion overnight, just by doing nothing. Literally nothing, out of thin air. See, $5 billion. He says, I never made that much in real estate. I'm just imagining this conversation. Why are you fighting? You're losing. You're not gaining anything. What have you gained? Destroyed cities. Why do you even need Bakhmut? It's already destroyed. What are you going to do with it? You won't conquer all of Ukraine? Maybe you'll advance another 20 or 50 kilometers somewhere. What does that solve for you on a global scale? You've already lost. You haven't captured Ukraine. If you had solved this issue back in 2020, maybe in a few days, at most within a month, of course, we would have just shrugged and said, they didn't even fight, they just gave up. And we would have said if the Ukrainians hadn't fought. But they are fighting. And we help them, and we will help them. Well, what are you deciding globally for yourself, you idiot? Nothing. Well, globally. Well, plus Avdiivka, minus Avdiivka. What does this solve in a global sense? Ukraine is not yours. I suggest you save face. I generously suggest that you save face. Well, that's how I conducted the negotiations. He confidently conducts them the same way. Control what you've taken. Go ahead and control it. We'll turn a blind eye. Of course, we won't recognize it. So control it, but deal with your own issues. You took it, so handle your issues in Crimea. You're sitting somewhere in Donbass, in Zaporizhia or Kherson region. Well, that's not a small thing. Go on, deal with your issues. Tell your people how you took their territory, how you killed all the Nazis and fascists, how you denazified them, demilitarized them. Go ahead, tell them. You'll be a hero at home. Let your lackeys like Solovyov and Skabiva tell everyone. They'll explain it all. And you've saved face. But at least we're stopping the war and starting to do things in Bobkulia, like the late Fema Leonidovich Zvegelsky once told me. We need to make Bobkulichki. So we're making Bobkulichki with you. You and I are heading into the Arctic. We'll have our own firms and companies there. Just about that kind of conversation. That's how I talked. He generously offers him a graceful exit and attractive options, allowing him to save face, even enhance his image domestically. Besides that, we'll gradually start lifting sanctions, inject money into your economy. Everything will be fine. You just made a mistake. The war was a mistake. You made a mistake. We all understand that. We're not naive. That's how negotiations are conducted. If you speak from a position of strength, it's a good combination. Then what happens next is this. If the adversary, appreciating your generosity, accepts it, you all become friends. You were enemies yesterday, and after this, you become best friends. That's life, Dasha. I know it a little, I repeat. If he's rude, if he behaves inappropriately, you can say, "Oh, so you're being rude? Didn't you appreciate my gesture or what?" The conversation is over. Close the door. The conversation is over. That's it. After that, any further words are unnecessary. It's time for action. And you start to act. I think that talks with President Putin are nearing their end. They're not over yet. There are still some options, but they're close to ending. To sum up the situation, I truly think that testing the patience and the resolve of the United States of America any further is a truly huge and significant mistake for Vladimir Putin. They will undoubtedly snap back at him without even flinching, and they will certainly snap at the Russian Federation. China won't help, India won't help. China and India will have to choose between siding with the US and Russia is just Russia. The position of the US carries much more weight because in the end everything is decided by money. That's how it is with Putin. Why did he snap over Ukraine, really lose his mind? He has a maniacal obsession. You know, I don't know if you've ever met men like this. If you don't give them what they want, they start seeking revenge, even war. This war is like the war of a man who feels slighted. Not even that. It's like a creature, a man who was rejected by a beautiful woman. That's all there is to it. The West doesn't understand this. The West understands money or something like that. I don't know. But where's the real substance in this war? Yes, if he had managed to capture everything, I repeat, yes, but he can't capture Ukraine. So what if he captures another Avdiivka, another Bakhmut? What does that actually achieve? That's why he's insane. And people will deal with him the way he deserves. Neither China nor India nor anyone else, not even North Korea, will help him. Because money is what really matters. Either they do business with the Americans and make a lot of money, or they do business with Putin and make a lot of money that way. They'll choose the Americans. There is no other option. It's no coincidence that Trump said we are more important to China than China is to us.
That's the key phrase. Look at how Putin is openly carrying out terrorist attacks on Ukraine. The fact that Putin went to Beijing and secured support. Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping are sitting together, and this triumvirate on the left and on the right hand. Putin, Kim Jong-un, and Xi at the parade, everyone wrote that the axis of evil is dominating, and Donald Trump has already come out and said that this is a threat to the United States of America. We understand perfectly well that now Putin will continue to wage war, having secured the support of China and North Korea. And he has demonstrated this. From here on, Putin will keep fighting.
Dasha, that's not a given. By the way, the Chinese are like that. It's interesting. They have the centuries-old wisdom of the great Chinese people behind them. You'll never really know what's on their mind. They smile at you, they nod, they receive you at the highest level. They say, of course, we will work together. Of course. And what about power of Siberia too? Okay, yes, of course, yes. But when? Well, it will happen, it will happen. There aren't any concrete decisions there. Chinese protocol, Chinese, this, I'll try to describe it now. That's exactly it. Well, this is that kind of hidden diplomacy. It's very hidden, very vague. They can speak in general terms with broad phrases, but then just as easily not follow through. Chinese banks don't process transactions with Russian ones, for some reason. And why is that? Because they don't want to fall under American sanctions. There are a lot of problems in the relationship between China and Russia. In reality, a lot. I read Russian telegram channels as well. And here and there, I see and pick up this information. The financial sector says, so are they friends or not our friends? So why are they blocking bank transfers? What's wrong here? And what they're doing in writing is, no, they're not our friends. They're just temporary partners. That's not how friendship works. And didn't Russia behave the same way with China and Iran? They signed an agreement in January. If I remember correctly, this year they signed a military assistance agreement, including, well, a coalition attacked Iran as a result of Israel and the US. So where are the Russians? Where is Russia? You signed a military assistance agreement, didn't you? And the Iranians are saying they betrayed us. Well, that's how things happen in the world. Because Russia thought, why should we get involved with America and Israel because of Iran? No, that's not what we agreed on. But taking Geran drones from them, Geran is the Russian name for Shahed drones. An Iranian factory, so they would build it for us. Yes, in the field of nuclear research, yes. But to stick our necks out for them, sorry, no. That's why it's called a ripoff. And this kind of ripoff happens everywhere. And China is doing the same kind of ripoff with Russia. Because as soon as it comes to something serious, like supplying goods somewhere, bypassing sanctions, buying oil, yes, exporting timber from Russia on a massive scale. Siberia is already bare, there are no forests left. It's all in China now. So doing that, sure, but getting into a fight with the Americans for the Russians, no, that's not going to happen.
Dimitri, well, of course, right now everyone is talking about what the response of the European Union, NATO members, and the United States of America should be. So we see, as Finance Minister Besson said, that Putin continues his missile terror. The Finance Minister says sanctions, but so far they haven't been imposed. The next package of European sanctions, what do you expect this fall? Here we are meeting with you on September 3rd with autumn ahead.
I'll turn the page on the calendar. And it's the 3rd again.
Trump still can't do it, Dmitry. You turn the page, but for Trump, it's still the 3rd. He can't turn the calendar page. Yes.
Don't worry, Trump will turn it too. Or maybe he already has while we're talking here.
In our tandem as Trump's lawyer, you won't let me doubt that.
Today, Trump asked his guys, what's going on there? Gordon with a happy face, still saying, yes, he's on air. Let's turn the calendar page. Dasha. So, about Europe. What is Europe doing right now, as far as I know? They are diligently working to ensure that in the foreseeable future, absolutely nothing will depend on any individual EU country that might potentially want to block a certain specific package of measures. Right now, they are developing amendments to the legislation, as a result of which neither Hungary nor Slovakia will be able to block fundamental EU decisions, including those concerning Ukraine. And they will do it, they will achieve this. And even if Orban and Fico, who are getting money from Russia, stand on their heads, it won't work. Well, it's just outrageous when Fico is constantly flying to see Putin. Why does he keep flying to see Putin, an international war criminal? I'll tell you why. It's for the money. Because there's a personal interest involved. There are no other reasons. But again, I'm not naive. I do understand a thing or two about life. There are no other options. He flies there for personal money. Not directly, but through contracts, through affiliated people, through orders. There are plenty of ways. Through Russian gas and oil. Because wherever Russian gas and oil appear, Russian corruption always follows, hooking government leaders. Russian gas and Russian oil always mean Russian corruption. Always. There are no other options. All the top Ukrainian officials who dealt with trading Russian gas and oil can tell you about this. There's always money under the table for those involved in the process. That's why the European Union is now addressing these issues to cut off those who want to block anything from having the ability to do so. And this is very important. It's the primary first step. Next, they're preparing the 19th package of sanctions. How strong it will be remains to be seen. It depends on how quickly they can get past the blockade from Hungary and Slovakia. If they manage to handle this quickly, the package could be very strong because no one will be blocking it.
Dmitry Ilyich, right now everyone is saying that Ukraine should strike Russian territory with long-range weapons, military targets, oil refineries. This is what we've started to attack intensively every night now. Oil refineries, railway hubs, logistics, military airfields. Now Madhya is saying that we are destroying or severely damaging more than 15% of oil refining capacity. And in August, Russia halted the export of petroleum products. As I understand it, September is also in question. What do we need to do today with Neptune missiles to make Putin stop?
Well, why only with Neptune missiles? We have many other types of missiles as well. So Dasha, we can do whatever we want. But at the same time, we need to understand also that the more we take out their oil refineries and energy facilities, the more they will do the same to us as well. We also can't, just like them, cover the entire territory. That's out of the question. We don't have the resources for that. By the way, they can't either. They can't shield all of Russia from our missiles and drones. And we can't shield all of Ukraine from their missiles and drones. That's why we always have to think ahead. And we do think ahead, and we understand that winter is ahead of us. It's coming soon. And we understand that Russia will now fiercely strike at energy facilities, so that Ukrainians are left without heat, without water, without light, without electricity. What are they doing after all? They are carrying out a planned genocide against the civilian population, against Ukrainians. Because when that Gurulyov, I think that guy is an idiot, or Zhuravlyov, they're all idiots there. But these ones are especially notorious. They're in the State Duma, holding high positions related to the military. When one of them, I don't remember who, he said about a year ago or so that they would capture Kharkiv. And that it wasn't even necessary to do it by military means. We'll bomb all the energy infrastructure so that the people of Kharkiv are left without water, without heat, and without electricity in the winter. And so, in their desperate flight, they flee from Kharkiv to western Ukraine, traveling by car, by wagon, by train, or even, for many, on foot. And then will calmly enter Kharkiv. Well, that was an official statement. But behind that statement is just, this is something that should go straight to The Hague. In other words, these people are committing genocide against innocent civilians. Well, you can't even call them people. They're fascists. They're pure Russian fascists. Just imagine, he wants to capture Kharkiv, a city of 1.5 million people. He can't capture Kharkiv. And he says that they're going to cut off their electricity, water, and gas in winter so that people would flee with nothing but the clothes on their backs and leave the city to them. This tactic isn't new. They will stick to this tactic. We shouldn't be wearing rose-colored glasses. That's why today, on September 3rd, we need to think about the fact that September and October will pass. And then November, December, January, February, March. And they will do everything to make it cold for us. to make sure we have no gas, no electricity, and no water. They will do everything they can. We need to understand this.
The most important question that our listeners and viewers keep asking us all the time in the comments and even in my private messages on Facebook, people write, be sure to ask Dmytro Ilyich this question on air. So I'm passing on these questions. Everyone is asking, where are our hundreds of missiles? The ones being produced so that we can strike them in such a way that they understand. For every attack on our energy infrastructure, it will be them left without power. And then since they only understand force, they will stop. Dmytro, where are these missiles that everyone has been talking about for several years now in serial production so that we can simply carry out permanent strikes on Russia? Because that's the only thing it understands. It doesn't understand anything else.
Dasha, do we have missiles? Do we have the capability? But here there's a complicated sequence of political decisions. You do understand that the go-ahead, there are two components that must give the green light for these strikes. The political leadership of Ukraine and the political leadership of our partner countries.
But why, Leonid Dmytrovich? Why must we ask permission to use Ukrainian missiles? Not American, not European, but Ukrainian. Dasha, our partners are in complex diplomatic talks.
Dasha, our partners are engaged in complex diplomatic negotiations. Ukrainian missile strikes are pulling the rug out from under our partners. Because the Russians can turn around and say to them, look at what they're doing. So it's complicated. They
are doing this, Dmytro. So basically, we can be terrorized, but we can't strike missile targets because of our partners.
I completely understand what you're saying, but it's complicated. It's just that
our audience is asking, so let's discuss it because it's obvious in itself, of course.
Let's do it. We're not avoiding answers to even the most uncomfortable questions. There's such a thing as a diplomatic game. There's a big diplomatic game going on with the Russians. And it's very important sometimes. Well, let's not forget that with Trump too, you need a special language, a diplomatic one, right? A special language. He doesn't understand straightforward conversation. He has his own nuances too, right? And look at how European leaders, they prepare for a long time, and look at how they come to meet him and how they talk to him. Well, that's based on such realities, but that's just how he is. That's the kind of conversation you have with him. With someone else, it's a different conversation. And with yet another person, it's a third kind of conversation altogether. But we live in such a world, so I'll say it directly. Sometimes it's very important to tell Trump, look, Russia is striking like this, and this, both day and night now. They are delivering these kinds of strikes, causing this kind of damage. People are dying. We are striking precisely at oil refineries. And we are not using the missiles that we have. Trump, I think, says, don't use them yet. I'm trying to establish a dialogue. I'm trying to resolve the issue. That's the political aspect. Why do you think we won't be given the Taurus missiles? Now, Chancellor Merz, I really like him a lot. Honestly, I think he's the coolest guy of them all. He doesn't say much, he's not talkative, but when he speaks, it's always to the point and very precise. Notice, he called Putin a war criminal. He's very precise in his wording, clearly on our side. He's not Schultz. Somewhere between here and there. And certainly not Merz. Very clear-minded, a precise person. A German, very refined. I asked the question, why wouldn't they give us the Taurus missiles? If we had the Taurus now, we would have bombed the Crimean Bridge. There is a combination, I won't reveal any secrets, when the Taurus missiles, at certain intervals, in a specific combination with other means of attack, missiles, drones, underwater, surface, and so on, there's a whole setup, will deliver precise strikes at the joints between the supports and the beams. There are vulnerable spots there. There are vulnerable points there. I'm telling you this as someone who didn't study very well, but nevertheless graduated from the Kiev Institute of Civil Engineering. There are such points where precise repeated strikes can cause the bridge to collapse. It's that simple. Why aren't they giving us the Merz? For the same reason. They're still trying to resolve the issue diplomatically. Besides, there's And why aren't they giving us the money? Dasha will ask. It would seem what could be simpler. There are 300 billion in frozen Russian funds. Why aren't they giving it? It's a diplomatic issue.
You know, the question isn't for our partners, that's all clear. The question is for us. Where are our ballistic missiles? That's the most important question.
I repeat, we have both cruise and political missiles. I repeat, we have both cruise and ballistic missiles. And we already have the quantity. We're not using them. Looking back at the political decisions of our Western partners, someone might say, but these are our missiles. Why look back at them? Well, the West is giving us financial aid, huge military assistance. If you don't want to take that into account, they'll just say, well, fight on your own. We won't help anymore. Are you really that tough? Is our process moving forward? We're trying to find a diplomatic solution. We're still trying, as long as you don't do this or that. We're being restrained. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. That's your sovereign right. But it's our sovereign right after that, not to help you, to distance ourselves from you. There are difficulties, Dasha, but what can you do? That's how it is.
Dmitry, recalling Israel, which doesn't ask for permission, strikes its enemies on its own and does it the way it sees fit.
Dasha, Israel, a powerful, highly technological country, which countries like the United States would never turn their backs on. Because of the super powerful Jewish lobby. Am I making myself clear enough? Let me explain. Never, no, they, Israel, can do all sorts of things from America. There are rebukes like, hey, have you lost your mind? You can't do that. But they do it. Do you know why they do it? Because they know, no matter what kind of rebukes there are, the Jewish lobby will never allow the US to turn its back on Israel. Never, under any circumstances. Dmitry.
Ilyich, your forecast. I know we often make predictions, but people really love these kinds of statements. Will the war end by the end of the year? Everyone would really like the war to be over by 2026. President Zelensky said that he would like the war to be over by the summer of 2026. Besson says this as well, and so does Jay Divens. In general, all our American partners are saying that the war should come to an end. But for now, we see that it is not ending, and it is entering a new, very protracted phase of a constant, permanent, large-scale war. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, a war of attrition.
Dasha, last year in December, I made a prediction, and I do not and will never renounce it. I said, let me remind you. I gave a 95% chance that by December 30th of last year, the hot phase of the war would end. I was sure of it, personally, 100%. But just in case, I said 95%. Why? Because people of that level told me so in Washington. And I'll tell you, I wasn't the only one saying this. There were two of us. The second was Mr. Kellogg, Keith Kellogg, who is Trump's special representative on resolving the war between Russia and Ukraine. On December 18th of last year, in an interview with Fox Business, he said that he has... How exactly did he phrase it now? I have a full and complete probability that by the end of this current year, the hot and intense phase of the ongoing war will finally come to an end. There were two of us, I repeat. His sources are the same. Listen, it doesn't matter, but with my source's permission, when it's all over, I'll say who it was. The forecast was rock solid. On the 30th, a video call between Putin and Trump, Trump and Putin. And during the video call, the hot phase ends and then negotiations. But that didn't happen. Now we can talk as much as we want about why. Yes, a Russian plane arrived with high-ranking officials. They brought the same list of those same 12 points. We are ready. But here are the 12 points. Let Ukraine agree to them. And everything there is specific. And it all fell apart. After that, I keep saying one thing. I don't believe in any forecasts. Personally, I don't. And I urge none of our respected viewers to believe in anyone's predictions. It's a thankless business. Trump makes predictions. The President of the United States. He says in 2 weeks it will happen. Sometimes it comes true, sometimes it doesn't. Trump's predictions don't work. So what can we say about the forecasts of some journalists or politicians or political scientists or researchers? Frankly, that's the real value of all of it. So once again, friends, don't believe in any predictions, no matter who is making them. It's all nonsense. I don't believe it.
Yes, and when Trump himself says that he doesn't need the Nobel Peace Prize, he's basically confirming that for now, he's not capable of taking any serious steps regarding...
That's not the point, Dasha. The Nobel Peace Prize is $1 million or maybe a little more dollars, and he's just made 5 billion. So if you've made 5 billion, why would you need 1 million and some change? Well, it's just pointless at this stage.
Friends, please like this video and leave a comment. Share your forecast for the near future. For the fall, what do you think will happen? It's very important to us. For now, the late summer fall offensive continues. Russia is attacking and it's already moving into September. Dmitry Ilyich and I meet every week to discuss all the key military and factual topics.
The war continues. The war will go on. I don't see any factors that would make Putin stop the offensive. We always speak honestly, and I just don't see it. Theoretically, of course, the war should end, and the sooner the better. Theoretically, of course, Trump should slap Putin across the face, and the sooner the better. But who knows if that will happen? We're talking about theory here. In theory, yes, that's how it should be, and soon. But in practice, we'll see. For now, as I see it, until the mud season starts, the Russians will keep trying to advance wherever they can. To push through, to probe. They will try to capture something somehow. Nothing changes. The war continues. And Ukraine, you and I must think only about beating off this onslaught, and so as not to give them a single meter of Ukrainian land.
One and only, Dmitry Ilyich Gordon. Dmitry Ilyich, thank you very much and see you next week.
Thank you. Goodbye.